But welcome to the webinar. Pleased to have you all here. Today's webinar is with our strategic partners, SignUpSoftware, and we're going to be walking through their product ExFlow, which covers AP automation. So if I introduce who's on the call today, and then we can get started. Okay, my name is Zoran Vidarkovic. I'm Business Development Manager here at sa.global. I cover new business intake and account management on the sales and account management team. Been with the company about 3 months, yeah, everything's going really well here. I'm joined by my colleague Dylan Davis, who is our account manager. He will be a familiar face to many out there. He's my go-to since I joined the company for information, so much so that I'm convinced he was born and raised in our Cardiff head office. Say hi, Dylan.
Hi guys. Yeah, thanks for joining. I'll be taking the Q&A section a little bit later on, so I'll hand you back over to Zoran for now.
Thanks, Dylan. And last but by no means least, he'll be doing all the heavy lifting today. We know him by many names. Today I will just stick with the Oracle of AP Automation. That is Patrick Telland, Head of Solution Delivery at SignUpSoftware. You can wait, Patrick. I know you're like a caged tiger back there. We will let you loose very soon. Let's get on to the order of the day. Okay, we've just done the introductions. We're going to give you a quick overview of SignUpSoftware's history and 24-year journey. Then we'll talk about the advantages of having AP processing built inside D365. We'll then move to Patrick to go through the automation demo, and then finally for those questions and answers, which Dylan will moderate and communicate to Patrick. Yeah, so let's take a quick look at that history. So as we can see, this is a potted history of SignUpSoftware, founded in 1999 in Stockholm, Sweden. Then in 2003, the first launch of ExFlow, which was built for Navision and Exacta. So happy 20th birthday to ExFlow. And then the rest really shows the growth of SignUpSoftware, both in terms of global footprint, annual revenues, and importantly, the product itself being made available to Dynamics 365 right up to present day, where SignUp opens offices in Spain and Portugal. And then that takes us to, if we go to the next slide, Patrick, that gives us a snapshot of where we are today. Over 1,500 customers worldwide, 100 million invoices managed, 250 million something else, Patrick, I think you told me, but I'm sure you'll cover that. 60 plus countries and working with 100 plus partners globally. So let's take a quick look at the advantages of AP processing tools, and they cover a number of areas. That's automation, visibility, control, and cost. And firstly, what you're getting is a streamlined invoice processing anywhere and any time. Full transparency of the entire process across the whole enterprise, a minimized risk of fraud, and compliance in line with your company policy, and importantly, lowering the cost of invoice processing, and who doesn't want that? And then importantly, it's all built inside the D365 solution, which gives you a single source of truth. It will feel very familiar to your users, and importantly, draws on those strict security protocols that you would expect from a Dynamics product. I think that covers most of my bit. Onto introducing Patrick now. And here he is, Head of Solution Delivery at SignUpSoftware. Patrick, over to you, and look forward to seeing this.
Thank you so much, Zoran, for that introduction, and also thank you to sa.global for organizing this webinar and inviting us to participate and present what we think is a very good product that really helps our client in the everyday life to become, not, as Zoran said, not only efficient but also compliant and having good control on things. I'm very pleased to, so my name is Patrick Telland, and I'm with the company SignUpSoftware and have been so since 2006. So I haven't been with the company for the entire journey. ExFlow was about 3 years old when I joined. Back then it was something different from what it is today. So it's been a very exciting journey. So I'm very pleased to be able to present ExFlow to you guys today. I will start off, so this is sort of the agenda inside the agenda. I'll start off with just one slide giving you the solution overview, but then I will move into the actual software demonstration. So I will be doing should we call it a live demo, and it's important to understand that, or what I'm focusing on today is sort of the daily processing, trying to get you an understanding, give you an understanding of how invoices are processed inside ExFlow D365 FO. So I will focus on the daily processing of purchase order invoices and cost invoices. Two things. One, in order to show you some of these things, I've had to switch off some of the automations. Otherwise, I wouldn't be showing you anything. I would say this is where it comes in, and we're done. But I want to sort of give you an understanding of the process. And then at the bottom of this slide, it also says examples of additional functionality. And at SignUpSoftware, we really do believe that AP automation is, from one angle, it's really important to achieve the automation, creating business rules that are applied, machine learning, automating things. So if this is true, then this should happen. But we also need to have proper support for exceptions. That's because you will end up in a situation where you don't have all your transactions automated. So good support for an efficient support for exception handling. But then you also have, as I show at the bottom, for example, end of period accrual processing. So taking care of all the invoices that are unprocessed, they're open, active at end of the period, and you want to close the books. Do we have good support for that? We have something called ExFlow agreements. There is so much functionality in ExFlow, which is sort of not directly connected to the automation, but surrounding the AP space. And we will not be able to cover that one off in this webinar. So please do not hesitate to reach out if you want to do a deeper dive into the product. So with that, let's move on to the one slide I have on the ExFlow overview. So giving you sort of introduce the components of the solution, if you will. So in the upper left corner, we see invoices coming in. Vendor invoices coming in, and they can come in different formats. So let's assume first of all a PDF image comes in. It comes in as an attachment to an email. That goes into the first step, the first component of this ExFlow solution, which is the ExFlow data capture, the scanning and data capturing software, where or EDC, as we sometimes call it, ExFlow Data Capture, EDC, captures or extracts information off of the PDF images. Once that has been done, it flows into D365, which is the bigger orange box on this screen. So the black screen, the black box in the lower left corner is sort of that's an OCR software, optical character recognition. You extract information, and then the extracted information, metadata, along with the PDF image, is being pulled into D365, where you will find the second component of the solution, which is, and the core of the solution, which is ExFlow, the ExFlow module inside D365. In that module, and also leveraging everything there is that is available in D365, we manage the invoices. We import and validate the invoices. We pre-code the invoices, i.e., we check if all the regular, of course, checks do we have this vendor? Does it exist in our system? Is the vendor stopped? or is it an okay vendor? We can validate if the bank accounts are correct. We can validate, of course, all these duplicate checks, and if there's a PO on the invoice, if we have a PO requirement, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of validations that are out of the box and can be built. And then we have the pre-coding. So if these conditions are met, if it's from this vendor, it's referencing something, we should have the coding of the invoice automated. And then the invoices flow through for approval. But in that step, of course, if it is referencing, for example, a purchase order, before it's being passed on for approval, we want to match the invoice. If it is actually within the tolerances that we've stipulated for purchase orders or for items and vendors and so on and so forth, it will not need an approval because the invoice is by definition pre-approved by the approval of the purchase order. So if it's matched within the variances that you've stipulated, it would go straight into final posting. If it's not within the variances, well, then it's an exception and someone needs to approve or make a decision how this invoice should be handled. And it then goes through workflow, which again, you will need to stipulate. And that's where, as Zoran said, one of the big things with AP automation, well, you got the cost, you got an efficiency, absolutely, by all means, but then you also have the control aspect and the compliance aspect. So we have the 3 C's really: cost, compliance, and control. So we want to have the approval policy, the delegation of authority policy that has been approved by the board of directors. That should be enforced. That's not a recommendation, it's a decision. So that should be enforced, and that's what we also bring to the table. We make sure that it's not overridden. The approval then, a third component, which I will present to you, is just above the orange box. We got 4 additional sort of attributes or boxes. The left one is ExFlow Cloud Approval. So as everyone knows, or I believe that many of you might have observed, is that D365 might come across sometimes as a quite busy screen. And if you have seldom users, for example, so invoices, sometimes you've got an approver receives invoices once every 6 months. We have created an approval interface, which is sort of user-friendly, intuitive, not as busy as a regular D365 screen. So I will introduce you to that one as well. Of course, just so that we get that one, that if there's a question mark on that one, of course, we do also provide a workspace inside D365 for approval of invoices as well. And then just want to touch on ExFlow Power Apps, the Automate, ExFlow Power BI, the dashboards, and Copilot. Being a fully integrated solution inside D365, we're leveraging not just the D365 FO piece, but we have the entire ecosystem available. So if you want to extend anything really, the sky is the limit, and it's the creativity rather than the technology that is sort of sets any limits and boundaries. So we're fully compatible with Power Apps and Logic Apps and Power BI and so on and so forth. Copilot is of course something that we get a lot of questions around, and we are heavily investing and looking into how Copilot can assist us, but at the same time, how we need to make sure that Copilot is not overriding things for us. As I mentioned back, the compliance and the control, we don't want something to be approved if it's outside of the variances, or if it's in violation with any of the board of directors decisions. So we are looking into very much the Copilot, and how Copilot, for example, can provide suggestions. So if it detects that you are repetitively doing something, then it's sort of then Copilot come in and say, hey, I noticed that based on these conditions, you are doing this repetitively. Would you like me to create and then Power App for this one, an automation. Very interesting space, very interesting. So that's the space which I will be showing you. Before I go into the product, I just want to go all the way back. I said, let's assume a PDF invoice in the upper left corner. Let's assume a PDF invoice comes in. It goes through the OCR, and then it's going to get pulled across into to D365, where we have the ExFlow module. But we also have EDI and XML invoices, and I don't know if it's shown clearly on this image, if it comes across to you in the audience. There's actually a line going straight from XML into D365, not going around the EDC part. So and this is one of the future proof kind of things. I think, first of all, we're quite proud of, we have come up with something we call import methods. And one of the import methods is connected to scanning data capture, the ExFlow data capture, but we support having multiple import methods. And we can then have one import method pointing to the ExFlow data capture, and then we can have a second one, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth. And those are pointing to other sources of invoice arrival. So let's say that we get one vendor has the ability to send us invoices as XML in the shape of in an XML format. We just create an additional import method, which is configuration, not customization. Big thing. And we can point to Azure Storage or some other source, and you simply can sort of slowly, or in your own time, move from PDF to XML in collaboration with vendors. And that, I think that's a very nice thing. Now, that was the slide that I wanted to cover off. I'm about to jump to the actual product. Inside the orange box, the last box says Analytics and Insights, and I'm going to start off in that end, because some people might sort of object, why do you have Analytics and Insights as part of the daily processing? And I argue it's vital, because automation does not come automatically. You need to work for it. I say that up front. So you need to identify what kind of bottlenecks do I have? What kind of hurdles do I have for going automated? And for that purpose, let's move away from the PowerPoint slide deck now and move into the product. So inside D365, we find ExFlow as a module, as any other module. I had been inactive, sorry for that one. So ExFlow resides inside D365 as any other module. And I have not really been active enough according to the system. Spent too long presenting the slide. When you buy ExFlow, we actually, instead of you inventing the wheel or coming up with all your KPIs from scratch, from a blank piece of paper, this is actually included so that you get, I really apologize for this one, you get already, when you go live, you have a number of KPIs available, and you can address them all immediately. I'm not suggesting that you will be up and running at go live, because you will have your unique circumstances and so on and so forth. But I argue that you will be up walking, and you can then build on top of this as you go forward. And these analytics are taking the different aspects into account, from the vendors aspect, from the procurement aspect, from the approvals aspect, and of course from the accounts payable team or purchase ledger teams aspect. So I think that's very important to remember. So I'm going to move that one out of the way now. And if you recall the slide deck, then we had basically three components. We had the ExFlow data capture, we had the D365, the big orange box, and I suggested an intuitive approval interface that is less busy. So let me now just log on then to ExFlow data capture. So again, assuming that we have a PDF invoice coming through from a vendor, it will then go into the EDC part. EDC will, before any approver looks at it, will try to automatically extract as much information off of the PDF invoices as possible. And then if we, again, as I mentioned, the automation is switched on, it now sits in a verify mode. Now, obviously, we want you to have a mindset of exception handling. So in this list of invoices, only those invoices that EDC finds problematic should be stuck, not all of them. So in this case, I've switched it off, so we have all invoices getting stuck in this step. So I selected the 4 invoices and just have a quick look at this, what this is. So this is ExFlow data capture when I verifying or confirming that yes, Mr. EDC, you've done a good job or you haven't. I'm looking at the on the right hand side, we have the fields that I have suggested or I have decided that we want to capture. This is of course what fields to capture is something that we decide in a workshop with the client. But we capture, first of all, EDC will try to connect it to the appropriate supplier. And that is done by a number of things, bank account numbers and names and addresses and VAT numbers and so on and so forth. And then it goes through sort of where's the invoice number, for example. And when I put the marker in this field, we can see that the EDC software is actually suggesting where it found the data. So as I move along, the operator or the user gets full support on sort of understanding where did the information come from. Now let's assume, well, we can see that it did actually pick up the correct value, but let's assume now I'm going to click delete and we see what it looks like when ExFlow data capture is unable to find value. You see that it highlights it with a warning triangle. It's either because it cannot find a value or the software is not really certain that it has found the correct value. What I simply do is I find the value manually and I double click and it finds where it should capture the value and you have the value in here. As I move away from this invoice and I click OK down below, I have taught Readsoft Online or EDC where to find the value. And it learns over time. So already at go live or at get go, you will have a high percentage of automation, as in EDC will be able to capture the values, but you will then also take it further to complete full automation. We see that it's the invoice date and order number if that's relevant and so on and so forth. And of course, there could be other values coming across. And then I click OK, or as in this case, I just move on to the next invoice. And we see an example of what it looks like when the EDC software is uncertain. In this case, it has been, as I mentioned before, when trying to identify the supplier, it will take a lot of information off of the PDF image and compare it against the vendor table. And in this case, it did not find a tax registration number. And I just confirm it by tabbing away from it, and now it's turned to green. That's really the. I hope this all makes sense. And as I said, if all the ticks on the right-hand side are green, there's no reason for you to verify over and over again, but simply switch on automation. And you can switch on automation in your own pace. So if I get to an invoice and everything is ticked green, I can simply select on that vendor card or on that definition, I can simply just tick bypass verification for completed documents. So in this case, I don't know if it's my internet now, but it's going fairly slow. So in this case, we can see here an example of an invoice that really I don't need to look at it. If it behaves, the EDC software is behaving as expected, I don't need to see this one every time we receive an invoice. I simply click on the pen and I say, allow complete documents from this vendor to be sent directly into ExFlow module inside D365. That was the first component of the solution, the EDC part, which is fairly straightforward, an OCR software, and then we move into D365. And again, I open up the modules. ExFlow sits inside D365 as any other module. So you see you've got accounts payable or purchase ledger, and you've got GL and so on and so forth. But then we have ExFlow module, and we got the workspaces, and then it's the different menu items and menu groups. I believe that you are quite familiar with. We got the inquiries and reports, the periodic tasks that to some extent or to a high degree controls the automation part of the process. So you are, and this is quite important, that you as a client are in charge of the pace and how quickly you move from transaction to transaction, exception handling and working in batches, and then moving to automation. You can automate certain parts of the process, and you have subset of data that you can automate, and then of course you want to achieve full automation, but you do it with your own confidence level intact. So moving then to workspace, I'm now in the ExFlow vendor invoice management. So this would be the out-of-the-box purchase ledger team admin or clerk workspace, where I keep track of all the invoices wherever they are. It doesn't matter if it's with me or if it's with an approver or if it's actually fully processed. This is a workspace where I can keep track of the workload and the statistics and so on. I would like to mention also at the top, we have full support for cross-company. So the AP team, the purchase ledger team can work as a shared service, or you can move towards that kind of thinking. And it's quite appreciated by our clients to sort of move towards those that kind of thinking. So we see the process. If you think about the slide that I had moving from left to right, new invoices coming in from the OCR, the EDC step. Now we don't have any invoices because they are automatically going into the next step, which is the coding. So the automated coding of invoices, assignment of approvers, and then we want to submit the invoices. We see that again, there's no point, there's no reason why invoices would get stuck in this step. If the invoices are coded by the system, by machine learning or rules that are in place, and we have appropriate workflows set up and configured, so the assignment of approvers are automated, well then we have all the values or all the attributes required to push the invoice to the next step. That should be automated. Now I've switched that one step off so that we can have a quick look at the invoices. But really, in real life, you should have automation switched on, and the focus would be. And these I've just created a couple of examples. Of course, you need to come up with the tiles that are required in your world. So exceptions, I only want to address exceptions. For example, exceptions because they were unassigned for some reason, or exceptions because there were no approvers for some reason, or exceptions the coding is not done for some reason. And then you can address those and try to address those issues, not just by adding the coding, but also, is this something that we can create a rule for future? And then, so the invoices should not really need to get stuck in this step. And then it goes on to the next step, which is the active step. So we submit the invoices for approval. But as I said, only those invoices that are outside of variances and tolerances should be active. So the invoices go to active, or if it matches, it goes straight to final posting, so available for final posting. And then the invoices that are active, i.e. someone needs to say something, make a decision, they will be available also for the AP team to keep an eye on. Moving to all invoices assigned to me, that is really, so if I then select them all invoices and I click general and validate, we can see by looking at the message that all invoices are validated correctly or okay. Now, both from an ExFlow point of view, but also from a D365 point of view. So all the validations, the standard D365 checkpoints, is it a duplicate? Do we have a vendor that is stopped? And so on and so forth. Is the currency the same on the invoice as it is on the purchase order that is being referenced? All of those checkpoints are in play. Then on top of it, so we're extending D365. We can do a number of things. I mentioned one of them was, for example, if we have a PO requirement, we want to make sure that the invoice does indeed reference a purchase order and a purchase order that is for that vendor. So looking at invoices now, a couple of things I want to highlight. So we have received the invoices from the EDC. It's come into this place, and we see that it's connected to vendors. We have the invoice numbers, dates, and all of those completely normal things that you would expect. And due date is being calculated based on the terms of payment set up on the purchase order, on the vendor, and all of those things. Rules that we need to sort of agree on when we have our workshop. But then some invoices are purchase order invoices and some are not. So we try to have one process, regardless if it's a purchase order or an expense invoice. And because we do realize that an invoice could also be first assumed to be one or the other, and then later on by the approver suggested to be the other. So we think that it's vital that we have one process. So this one is referencing purchase orders, and we see on the lower level that it is referencing purchase orders, and not just purchase orders, but actually purchase order lines. And we can, of course, also link it directly to specific product receipts or packing slips. So it really is depending on your requirements. We do get all the information is available for the purchase ledger team at this point. So it's a three-way matching rule or a three-way matching requirement, and so on and so forth. And we see that if the invoice is to be approved, it needs to go to this approver. Now, we can also see that the invoice has actually gone through matching already. So there has been a dry matching. As part of these validations, we run a pre-matching. So it has been matched, and the match result is in this case matched. If I move on to another invoice, we see that there's a price variance. So I expect this invoice to require an approval. And then we have a quantity variance. Then we also have non-PO invoices, and we can see that this one has been coded. Now on two lines, the second invoice, or the third from the top, the second expense invoice is coded differently. So you can set up stipulate rules suggesting that if an invoice comes from a vendor, I want it to be coded in a certain way. But then we can see, for example, here we have reference information. So there's vendor information in combination with reference information will actually result in different coding. So all of these things should be automated, and you should only have the exceptions. And again, I've done the validation, which is not required, but I will then, I've done the validate, and then I'm going to do post. And you could argue then, I should go in here, just select all of them, click post, and then the ones that are left in this, I shouldn't go through them all. I should just immediately go in, select them all, click post. The ones that get stuck, the ones that remain in this form are the exceptions. Now the invoice is got submitted for approval. So I move out of this form and back to the workspace, and we see that we no longer have any invoices in this pre-coding and coding and submit step. But now we have invoices active or final posted. So let's move into the final posted, and we see the sort of the sunshine story. As I said, the invoice, one of the invoices was matched, so that one is all approved. And we can now see that invoices in this next step, in this active and approved step, we have in statuses. So they move from being active to approved, and we want to achieve that they are entered into status invoiced, which means they are final posted. But please note that we also have canceled. This means that any invoice, let's say that an approver rejects an invoice and is asking it for it to be canceled, you don't delete it, you cancel it. So from a purchase ledger perspective, you always have the history. You can always see who rejected an invoice and when was it canceled, and so on and so forth. So that's just the final posting happening that will take care of that, sort of moving it from approved status into an invoiced status. But this is the happy flow. Then we have active invoices, and they can be active for a variety of reasons. As I said, we have the non-PO invoices. They should be approved by someone, and we see now that this is the current approver we're waiting on for these non-PO invoices. But then we also have PO invoices, and that's a price variance, and we are expecting it to be approved by this approver as well. And this is a quantity variance, which gives us a different workflow. So as you see, depending on the workflow or the matching outcome, we can have different approvers. We also, I just want to mention, quantity variance is something that we have a feature for supporting. Quite often you have, let's say that you're a manufacturing company, or you purchase components or products from let's say China. It takes every day or every time it takes 2 days for the goods to arrive. It takes 25 seconds for the invoice to arrive, and then in this step. So the quantity variance is every time, always you expect to have quantity variance for example, 2 days. Now you can stipulate rules inside ExFlow saying those invoices should go to hold for 2 days, and you can set those rules on vendors and so on, items. So if invoices from this vendor is quantity variance, put it on hold for 2 days. During those 2 days, we will perform rematching in the background, and if the goods arrive, then hunky-dory, it will move out of quantity variance and into matched status. If it's still a quantity variance after 2 days, well then it's an actual quantity variance, and it will not move out of quantity variance, but it will move out of hold, and someone needs to address the actual issue. So at this time, the approvers will receive an email suggesting that you need to approve invoices. That email will also contain a link clicking on that link will take the approver to, and let's assume now that it is then the ExFlow web. As I said, you can also use a workspace, which is inside D365. So this is when I click on the link in that email. This is my sort of welcome page. I see the invoices that are waiting for me. I have some folders, possibilities to filter or filter on specific things. I can see my past 30 days of activity. I can see invoices that are on the way to me. I might be the approver number 2, 3, 4, but it's still with number 1 or any of the previous approvers. As an approver, I have search capabilities, so I can look for invoices, and you stipulate in the range or how should the approver be able to search for all invoices in the legal entity, or should it be limited somehow? That's possible to configure. And then we have possibilities. We have quick tips, replacers, so the approvers can manage their own replacers, and so on and so forth. So let's move into a non-PO invoice, and just simply the approver is now looking at the invoice. You have full access to the invoice image. You have the pre-configured. First of all, in the upper left corner, you have the invoice header information, and then you have the lines, the pre-configured lines, pre-coded lines. If I click on the line, it opens up to me, and I can code the invoice if I am, as the approver, if I have been given that privilege to do so, and I can only select those values that I have the privilege to select, and all the account structure validations are in place, and so forth, and I can split the invoice if I have been given that privilege. I can approve the invoices, I can reject the invoices, and that goes away from my list of invoices, and I open another one, and we can see that this one had 2 lines. I can chat, I can add attachments, and everything I do, and I can write comments on individual lines, and I can forward invoices. Everything I do in this screen, I write directly into the D365 data tables. So there's no integration as in synchronizing data and so on and so forth. What we see is the single source of truth. We can also, if we add any attachments to the as an approver to the when I approve, I add an attachment. That attachment will be stored alongside the invoice itself inside, not inside D365, but using the document handler inside D365. So Azure Storage would be the most commonly used. And then I wonder if we don't want to approve the quantity variance, obviously. And here we see a purchase order invoice, where we can see, if we look, we can see that it's a price variance, and you can see what we are expecting: a unit cost of 20, but we have a unit cost of 26 on the purchase or on the invoice. So I simply approve that one as well. Moving back into and we're now getting very close to the end of the presentation. So now I move into D365 again. For a few minutes there, I was the approver. Now I'm back in the purchase ledger team, and I will actually refresh this one, and we see that we have 1 active invoice, and the rest of the invoices have been manually approved now, and have sort of joined the automatically approved invoice. So we see that we have 2 purchase order invoices ready for final posting, 2 cost invoices ready for final posted, but we do have 1 invoice of the 5 original invoices. We have 1 left, which is still active, and that is a quantity variance. Why? Because we don't want to a quantity variance. If we have a three-way matching rule requirement, then it has to be receipted. And if the invoice comes in and there is no receipting, well, the only way really to address this issue is by sending the invoice to the approvers with quantity variance. That's a notification really to the approver or the user to address the issue, i.e. go and receipt the goods onto the purchase order. Otherwise, the only really is the reject the invoice. If you want to have, if you want to avoid the receipting step entirely, you need to go for 2-way matching. And then some people argue, but then it just goes straight into approved. But we have obviously support in our settings, so you can actually, for all 2-way matching invoices, you send them for approval. So we have, I believe, a full coverage. That is really the that takes me to the end of this this short, should we call it, introduction to ExFlow, because as I said initially, if you want to see everything there is to see about ExFlow, it will take much more than the webinar. But I believe what we've seen is an invoice coming in as a PDF. We've looked at the ExFlow data capture, and then if you click OK in there, and the invoices get imported and pulled into D365, where it gets pre-coded, approvers are assigned, the invoices are linked to purchase orders if it's relevant, they get submitted for approval, only get routed for approval if it's required. If it's matched, as we saw one of the invoices, it flies straight to the final posting step, and that's where it sits and just waits on that final posting batch job, which I don't intend to that's just a batch job running. And we saw those invoices that did not match perfectly, or within the variances, I should say, we had a look at them in the ExFlow cloud approval interface. And of course, we also, in the very beginning, we saw the analytics and insights that are available as part of the product. So you hit the ground running, if that makes sense, when you go live. With that, I believe I have concluded this very high-level introduction to ExFlow. So I hand over to Zoran or Dylan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Patrick, for that. Please, if you have any questions, you can post them in the chat area of the webinar, and then Dylan will speak to Patrick and the team.
Yeah, we've had a couple of come through, Patrick, as you've been doing the presentation and the demonstration. The first one was, do you have to buy the OCR from SignUpSoftware, or can you use any OCR software?
That's a good question, because you can actually. That goes back. I move back to this overview solution slide. As I mentioned regarding the XML files, I mentioned what we have in the interface inside ExFlow. We have what we call import methods, which we think I really think it's a beautiful thing, because it allows you to have multiple sources, but it also means that you do not need to buy the OCR software through us. If you don't have an OCR software, I strongly recommend doing it, because we do believe that we have a good solution. But if you already have one in-house that you're happy with, absolutely, by all means, we simply configure an import method and make the connection to that one rather than to our ExFlow data capture. And you can also have a combination. In all honesty, you can have multiple data capture tools, and you can have multiple sources, of which some are XML, some are OCR softwares, some are XML in one format, some are XMLs in other formats. So full flexibility, if you will.
Yeah, perfect. And Patrick, you mentioned at the start that you need to work for automation, and each client might be unique in the way they do this. Are you able to support in achieving automation and managing the change management piece?
So that's a very good question, though, because I think I alluded to it before. Automation does not come automated, as you say. It's sort of you need to make a firm decision that you want to go and you want to try to achieve this. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And we provide a tool for it. That tool resides inside inside D365 FO. So you need to take on sort of automation when you say we want to move on to automation. You need to consider both FO and ExFlow, which really is one of the reasons why I'm very happy to be in a call in this webinar with sa.global, because it's not sa.global or SignUpSoftware. It's really important that the implementation happens as a team, and then you have, apart from the tools that are being provided, it's the change management. And we obviously provide as much experience as we try to sort of bring along as much as experience into the project as possible, and try to communicate as much as possible to the the client. In the end, the client must do the change management. We can only do the recommendations and suggestions, and when I say we, it's really SignUpSoftware and sa.global. So it's you need to take this on with respect for change management. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, 100% agreed. And just the final one that we've got in the chat here, Patrick, and it's probably a little bit more of a specific one than the last one we had, and that is, do you provide support for month-end accruals?
Yeah, so that's going back actually one more step into the slide deck. That's the one I mentioned, I believe, end of period accrual. So yes, the ExFlow for D365 FO module and solution has so much more than just the daily processing. So, but since we do have all the information in one place, we do have an easy way. We have support for just running if you think about this is an example of how SignUpSoftware sometimes sort of tries to be lazy, but I'm also trying to suggest that it's sort of trying to think smart. So instead of creating a report, so we got requests, we want to be able to run reports of the invoices, and then that we then can use as basis for the accrual. And then we suggested, why do we present it as a report? Why don't we simply run a job, or the user, the controller, or whoever is in charge of the accrual, runs the job, but instead of presenting the data in a report, we simply populate a journal. So every individual purchase or invoice line will be copied across into the designated journal, and inside that journal, the controller can look through all the invoice lines. And which ones should be accrued, which ones should not be accrued. and you can then, and that job can be run multiple times, so you can just rerun that a couple of days ahead of the period closing, and address those more vital ones, and then you run it as part of the closing routine as well. But important to remember, being built inside D365 means that we can do this. We can, for example, populate a journal directly, and the controller can then make the decisions inside that journal. But we also have, on that journal, there's an ExFlow button. So in that standard GL journal, you can, the controller looking through the accrual, just click on a button and see the invoice image. And click on the button, see who are we waiting on the approval for. Click on the button and you see all the comments that were made, any attachments that were made by the approvers. So when making the decisions on the accruals, they have the full information on that, whether it should be accrued or not. Same thing as an extension, so moving away from the accrual question, being built inside D365 means that just as we had one button in that journal, if you're in the GL module and you are on a specific voucher and you wonder what type of cost is this, if it then originates from an ExFlow invoice, you can click on the ExFlow button and you will see the invoice image. You click on the button and you will see who approved it, when, comments, attachments. Same thing, so it's on the voucher, on the purchase order, in the project module, fixed assets, and also when you do payments, you have all this information available. So yes, sorry for taking the, yes, we do have a good solid support for period accrual, but we have and one of the reasons why it's actually good, really good, is we're being built inside, so everything is seamless and you can work quite flexibly with these things. That was a long answer to a fairly short question.
No, that's fine. We prefer long answers than short answers, Patrick. So I'm just conscious of time here. I've seen a question in the chat asking if there would be a recording available. sa.global will send across the recording within the next probably 24 to 48 hours. If there are any further questions or you require any further information, please do contact your allocated sa.global contact or account manager, and they'd be more than happy to assist. But yeah, on behalf of sa.global and SignUpSoftware, thank you very much for your time and joining the webinar, and we hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks all.
Great. Thank you, everybody.